a few little things wrong with it. We'll see.
Nice. Okay. I'm getting a live on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And I got the notification that says we are on there. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll go ahead and start. Lisa, if you want to tell us about yourself and where you're at, the name of your business, we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. Well, I'm Lisa Betts Marquez, and I practice my work out of my hometown, Gearing, Nebraska. And I do work online as well as in person. And I consider myself to be a transformational coach. So my greatest passion is to help people to look at the blocks and the beliefs and the patterns that are holding them back. Sometimes that involves shadow work. I do transformational breath work, which is shadow work, and shamanic in nature. I also teach yoga and meditation, and I have a breath and movement practice called archetypal gesture, which I have developed, and it is extremely potent. And I'm working on that now with a group of students that are functioning in a laboratory environment for me to practice and develop this very potent modality, which is going to be unleashed into the world this year in a bigger way, a different way. And so it's been really exciting. Cheri is part of that. And thank you, Cheri, for being part of it. It's been really exciting to see things develop with that. So
wonderful, wonderful. Is it Cheri or Cheri?
Cheri.
Cheri. Okay. Cheri, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a psychic medium, and I do divination cards as well. And basically, my work involves finding people that need to know what their next step is spiritually, or coming to me for closure with loved ones that have crossed. So that's kind of where my heart is. And then I do a lot of shamanic prayer work and house clearings for people in town. I am located in Alliance, Nebraska. I do have a room in a shop, but I do most of my work right out of my home. So hopefully I nailed all the points you wanted.
Well, okay, so just, Cheri, we're kind of having a hard time hearing you. So if you can bring your microphone or anything a little bit closer.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Any better?
Oh yeah, lots better. All right, perfect. All right, and Michelle, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I call myself a spiritual life coach. I help people release negative emotions trapped in their heart space by using a modality called the Akashic Record. So really a lot of what I do is also the shadow work. And it just allows, when we can go into there and release that negative emotion, it allows us to be detached from all the emotions from the traumatic event that happened, so we can work through it in a completely different way.
Nice, nice.
I'm in Loveland. And Lisa, would you do a little plug for your holistic fair next weekend?
You muted yourself, Lisa.
yes, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I organize the Wyobraska Metaphysical Fair, and it's twice a year, and it's exciting because March 6th through 7th, we will be at the Gearing Civic Center, that is Gearing, Nebraska, and we'll operate on Saturday from 10 to 6 and Sunday 10 to 5. And Michelle will be there, Cheri will be there. I wish we could talk Althea into being there, but there are going to be 20 vendors, and it's just going to be delightful. We're going to have an animal communicator there, loads of people doing very transformational work, Akashic records, and shadow work. There will be tarot readers there, intuitive readers, Reiki practitioners, shamanic healers, sound healers, There are going to be tool makers for metaphysicians. We'll have some scalar frequency tools for protection against EMF, and also psychic protection and all kinds of other things. We have amazing retailers with crystals and jewelry and all kinds of handmade arts, and it's just going to be a great group. I'm so excited about it. It's $7 to get in and $12 for both days, and then children 12 and under are free.
Nice. Oh, well, I know that everybody is quite excited about it. Yes, I was hoping to be there, but with the weather, now that I'm having to drive just a little bit further, I am out of Riverton, Wyoming. I own Direct Emotion. I am certified in the emotion code. It's just a process to identify trapped emotions that are blocking us and keeping us from doing whatever. And once we get them released, onward and upward, that's where we're going. So which brings us to the very special topic today, which I'm actually very excited about. And one of the things, and the biggest reason why that this is something that I think is very, very important, is a couple of years ago, I was in Casper, Wyoming at their holistic event, and I was teaching a class on what trapped emotions start doing to the body, manifesting physically. One of the people in the audience raised their hand and says, "Do you use this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I use it like almost weekly, and sometimes every couple of days, depending on what I'm feeling." And I'm like, "I'm kind of curious, why do you ask that question?" He says, "Well, I went to one lady and she said she did this, and I asked her if she ever used it, and she said no." I was like, okay, that's interesting to me. But I have found that there is a little bit of this. Sometimes, for whatever reason, we get a little discouraged or whatever, and we just stop doing stuff. So it's this walking between the two worlds, like using our practices to help us to be able to help others. And then what happens when we get caught up in our own crap? Because unfortunately, this world does turn. Unfortunately, crap does happen. Unfortunately, people are still all over the place and doing what they do. So how do we get this kind of balance in between? And, I'm kind of curious. Cheri, we'll start with you. What is it what was the biggest thing that turned you on or got you into self-healing?
I think it was not really my doing. I was at church and I started to notice that my hands would start burning. Like it felt like I had literal fire in my palms of my hands. And and that nudge, you just feel like you have to do something. And I started just interrupting the church services with permission from the pastor and praying over people. And I started seeing people get healed. And that's when I kind of connected the dots that I could do it for myself as well. And so the way I use it for myself is if I need healing, I just lay my hands on myself and pray over that body part or whatever. If it's more mediumship type of like closure that I need, I go to another professional for that. I just prefer it that way.
Well, what a beautiful use too, because we are designed to help each other. That's why we're not the only ones on this planet, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, Michelle, what is your thought? Why did you get into alternative healing, self-healing?
So the reason why I got into it was actually my childhood. I was looking for something to release all the trauma and all the stuff I went through without going to a therapist and having to talk about it and relive it day after day after day after day. Because internally, I knew that's not what we were designed to do. So I was looking for something to help release what I went through in a positive, healthier way, to where I can look at it, everything from an outside vision versus emotionally from the inside.
Nice. Well, and it's kind of interesting how how this comes about and what this really does. Lisa, why did you get into alternative healing and self-healing?
Thank you. That's a really cool question. I think that I've always been the person that people came to for advice or wisdom. I've always been that sounding, the sounding board, the good listener, the one that had wise advice and wise counsel. And when my father passed away, I was 25, and being witness to his death, or I should say transition, because he had cancer, brain cancer. And I got to be with him and help him process his dreams that he would have in preparation for transition. And just going through that process, I became fascinated by spirit and realized that there was a lot more to spirituality than I had been taught in the Christian church that I grew up in. And I felt a lot more aligned in this new sort of discovery of spirit. And that really led me into a seeking time in my life where I found the Conversations with God books. And I found my way eventually to a spiritualist church in Washington, D.C. called the Church of Two Worlds. And that's where I encountered energy healing for the first time and mediumship for the first time. And I just couldn't believe that there was this amazing, like, gorgeous, beautiful church in Georgetown with the stained glass windows. And it was this gorgeous place. And they were like mediums, spiritualists. And I was like, whoa, mind blown. And they taught me a lot about spiritual practices and metaphysical things. And I started to use some of the tools with a job I had that was a toxic environment, and they worked. And it was really like magic. I was like, whoa. And then I got to do a Silva method of mind control. That's the old term. Now they just call it the Silva method. And that was another whole new tool that I learned. And ultimately, I discovered Reiki and began to learn that, and discovered that I was a natural healer. And I always had said that I had magic hands. I was the one that would massage people and give hugs. And so I think I've just always been that person. And over the time of my life, it unfolded and expanded into the new tools that I use. And it was just such a joy when I finally was able to step into it and just, say, I am a healer. I am this person who does this, and you can come to me and I will do my best to help you. And, of course, learning more tools all the time, breath work, yoga, and all the other things I do, NLP, just adds more layers of what I can do to help others. And I think at one point I realized that I was one of those people that's service to others and not service to self. And I've always not always, but I tend to look at the world now look at people that I meet. This is a service to self person. This is a service to others person. The service to others persons are my tribe. And, you can still be a healer and be a service to self. We tend to call those folks false prophets. So I don't want to give anyone the impression that everybody in the healing world is a service to others person, because that's not true. And we need our discernment for that. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and it's exciting because I'm 53 years young and I know there are more things to learn, and I'm so excited to figure out what they are.
Well, and isn't that an interesting thing? Because you're right, there's a lot of people out there who use this. Well, I actually found out, this is kind of strange. I've always heard the term priestcraft. Okay. I've always heard that term being used. And the description that I was informed the other day, which is really weird because I always thought it was naughty things, but it was really a falsifying of religious for personal gain, financial personal gain. And I'm like, well, yeah, that is kind of bad, because when you're teaching spiritual stuff or really intimate spiritual stuff is what really it is, then you shouldn't get the personal financial gain out of it. You know, I mean, we get paid for our time, for our efforts and that kind of stuff. But it was really strange to hear that understanding of what that word meant. So I was like,
that's interesting to me. So you translate the gain, the personal gain, to like financial exchange. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what they were meaning it as. Yes. In this definition, when you take the spiritual aspect and use it for strict financial gain, it's not really to benefit anybody else. It's only to take advantage.
Oh,
that was the definition. So
I like the concept of taking taking advantage of someone, for sure. But I don't necessarily think I agree with all of that. I think that you know, as you mentioned, we're spiritual guides, I guess you might say, facilitators. And so, as such, when someone does sit down with me and there's an exchange where I'm giving my time and my knowledge and my understanding and wisdom, I think it's only fair for there to be an exchange of some sort, whether that's you'd bring me some fresh eggs from your chickens, because that's what you can do, or perform a service for me in exchange, or here's, you know, some money, physical money. Because, you know, I think that there's this concept that anyone who does what we do should just offer it for free because we're doing it for good, doing it for the greater good. Well, guess what? I got bills to pay just like you do. And I can't offer all of my things for free, because then there's nothing for me. And then I become depleted. So when I look at the service to self versus service to others, or what you were talking about, Althea, I think of it as, am I doing this? Am I sitting down with this person because I want to help them, and part of my payment is to see them flower and grow and blossom and expand, and that's what lights me up inside and makes me feel wonderful and connected to God, perhaps, because that for me is what it is. But I also am giving time and need, you know, to pay my bills, so that's all part of it. Or am I a person who goes out and gets all these trainings and all of these tools and sets myself up as this person you can come to and trust, who is really just all about the I get turned on, that I have this ability to do this for you, or do, you know. So to me, it just has a big, you know, who do you give the glory to? Like when people thank me and say I've done all this for them, I say, no, no, no. I only facilitated and made a space for you, for you to come and find your own answers. And God speaks through me because I pray and ask for that. And the wisdom that comes through me is not mine. I mean, there might be some things I've learned over the time of my life, but what's coming through for you is what God gives me. And that to me is the difference between a service to others person and a service to self person. A service to self person is wanting to make a lot of money, is wanting to be powerful, is wanting to have all the tools, wanting to get over and be known and have the, you know, there's this sort of greed element in my mind, and not necessarily that I'm right, Althea, but that's just how I would describe it.
Well, I mean, and you know, like learning that definition it is one that was describing exactly that. It's about setting oneself up for the glory of self rather than the glory of others, you know, and who we all get it from, really. But it's like, yeah, should we get paid for our services? Yeah, betcha we should. Because I like milk, but I don't want to milk a cow. So I'm going to pay somebody to milk a cow so that I don't have to. I milked a cow. It's not fun.
Way to bring it down. I mean, down to the ground.
You know, so it's like, yeah, I'm not willing to go out and, you know, gather my eggs. No, I did that growing up. those little peckers, they hurt, you know? So it's just one of those things where it's like, no, it's very interesting because many of us, you go through the trainings. We go through all these trainings. We learn how to use these techniques and these modalities to help us and to help others, but really we get into it because of our own experiences, right? We get in to heal ourselves, to kind of do everything we can to help us be the best that we can possibly be, which is one of our purposes here on this earth, is to always be the best person that we can be, right? To help others. So what happens when we get caught up in our own crap and we're like, I don't want to do any of this today. I just want to puddle around. What happens during that particular time? Is it a growth spurt? Is it a spiritual breakthrough? Or is it just, you know what, I'm being really human today and I'm throwing a fit on the living room floor? Cheri, let's start with you. What do you think?
I think for me, it's all of that. The last 2 to 3 weeks, I haven't been posting any live videos on my Spirit Closer with Cheri site that I do on Facebook. I just got really overwhelmed. I did a lot of powerful spiritual work for people, and they had some heavy stuff. And you don't absorb it when you're doing it, but it does take a toll on you because energy work is exhausting sometimes. And sometimes I don't have the option of saying, well, let's meet tomorrow. You have to keep going. And my cycle seems to be, I have 7 to 10 days of rest, 7 to 10 days where I get calls on the fly for crazy stuff and I go do it. And then there's 7 days where I actually get paid for it. Like I do a lot of stuff for people that just can't afford it otherwise. Like Lisa was saying, it is nice to get paid for it somehow. I've been paid in a bag of cashews, which if you think of somebody that's on commodities on, a fixed income, that's a huge payment to me. It's not about the payment. It's about just getting a little bit of energy exchange that's positive there. So I don't want to come across as being greedy because that's not what it's about. But I do know that when I do sit down some days, sometimes I'm just like, I am going to binge watch this show on Netflix today because it makes me feel good. and other days, it's more where I just have to sit here and be quiet, no noise, insulate myself, and just let the angels and spirit just do their thing. I guess it just depends on the energy of the day, maybe. But we do have to be very aware and put that protection up around us every day for our energy and for not bringing home everybody else's garbage in the end of the day. It's kind of like in Michelle's class where she talks about a golden hula hoop every night at bedtime coming down and cutting those cords, from everybody. That was probably one of the best things I've ever heard in my life because I do it all the time. And I teach other people to do that, and so yeah, is that kind of where you're going with that, I hope?
Yeah, well, because this is truly, as we're learning, I don't think we stop learning. Just because we get certified in something doesn't mean that we're complete, like the expert. I think the expert will come in the next term. That's what I think. I think as we learn and grow, it's constant, that evolving. But what is, like Michelle, what do you think about all of that? What happens when we get stuck in our own crap? What's going on?
So for me, when I get stuck, so last Thursday, so we could go from from yesterday, I started getting into this poor pity me type mode, and I was like meditating in and out of it all day Thursday, all day Friday. Saturday hit, and I was up doing a speech in a forum, and my mind went blank, and I went into a PTSD trauma event from my childhood. And so all day Sunday I was there, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here, figure this out. There's something here that I need to work through still. And we're just going to let the emotions go through. And woke up Monday going, wow, I feel like much better, like nothing ever happened. And it's because I was able to just live in that moment and allow those emotions to happen And when they came up, it was like, I love this part of me. And it would move on. And so all day Sunday, that's all I did. And it's like, that's why I teach my clients too, when you get in those moments, remember that we need to love those dark shadow sides of us too, in order for it to actually move away. And so when it came up, I was like, nope, I love myself. And it would just come and go throughout the day. And Monday morning, woke up like, oh, nothing happened. Okay, cool. I was able to work through it without having to dig deep into it.
That is beautiful. Well, and Lisa, what's your take on that? What happens when we get caught up in our own crap?
It's interesting hearing everyone's ways. I have canceled before, and I've been very honest, because I went to a healer once. I drove all the way to another town for a healing, and I got there, and they took about 40 minutes to talk to me about their problem. And then they gave me about 20 minutes or 30 minutes of healing, and they charged me like full amount too, but they thanked me. And I remember feeling how that felt to me. I felt like, gosh, I was mad at myself. I was like, why didn't I just say, no, let's just say that this was for you. And, I'm happy to have been of service to you, and then I could go get a healing somewhere else or another day. And so I always, if that's something really major going on, I cancel and say, I'm so sorry, but I've got something going on with me that makes it impossible for me to fully give to you. So I think that's, as healers, very important and ethical for us to do and acknowledge that. Because if you aren't working on yourself and you're not healing yourself, you're not leading by example, but you're also going to be polluting, or the energy that you're sharing with someone else. And we know what it feels like to pick up our clients' energy, right? We just certainly do not want to give it to them as they leave when they've come to us for healing. And so I think it's really important that, like I think Cheri said, that we ground ourselves and do the sort of housekeeping after every single interaction we have as healers with others. And I can always tell that I've not done enough for myself in that regard, because I'll be driving home on our road and I'll feel emotional, and I'll be like, why am I feeling emotional? And then I realize, oh, it's not mine. And then I just do a very simple, I release that which is not mine. I release that which is not mine. I release that which is not mine. And then I just, until I feel it sort of lift and I'm feeling back to myself, and it depends on the practice. So after breath work, I go and hug a tree for a while or lay on the ground for a while. But my daily practice is to just meditate in the lotus position, and I just practice my breathing, very slow, deep in and out, and I let everything kind of melt down into the ground, down my spine, and all of the stress and tension of the body down. And that's my sort of housekeeping practice. But when I am in a mess, when I feel like a mess, I usually will go up to Fort Collins and do breath work with my teachers. I find a way to have someone else facilitate me, because I think it's important that we do that. And, we are so constantly giving that we don't often receive. And so I try to keep myself engaged with my teachers and people I respect to hold space for me, because I think it's important to do that.
I think so too. Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you about this incident that I had working through my own crap. I always love it when it happens. Maybe not while it's happening. So we were getting ready to relocate over to Nebraska, and I had to come over here to Riverton to get this house in order for a renter. And we had these huge trees, leaves everywhere. Like, my husband was working, he couldn't come over here and help, which was fine. But something happened when I left my house in Rushville. As I started driving over here, started getting really angry. And by the time I hit Riverton, now that's a 6-hour drive. So I had 6 hours just to stew over, I don't even know what, just anger. So by the time I got here and I was mowing the lawn and picking up all this crap, I mean, it just seemed like I was just getting worse and worse. And I am just like, oh, screw this. Like like literally, like my day started off good. Like I woke up and I was pretty happy. Like I showered, got ready to go, get over here. And I'm like, if anybody comes over and talks to me, I think I'll just slap them around. I don't know. If there was an animal walking by, I'd probably kick it, just because I am that angry. So when I was mowing the lawn, all of a sudden, it was like I had this little like Althea go emotion code. And I'm like, well, the freaking, I'm throwing my little fit. So finally I just come in the house because I was getting so angry. And I come in and start emotion coding. And I'm like, how do you start emotion coding for that? Like, where do you begin? So I'm like, what the F is wrong with me? Okay, is there a trapped emotion? Like, I'm just like, and so about 20 minutes later, the interesting thing is that I found it starting to chase pain. I ended up chasing pain throughout the body. And I thought that was very peculiar. And of course, it ended up back in my liver, which the ultimate outcome of that whole thing was from some anger that I was holding on to from a past relationship. And I'm like, well, at least I don't want them dead anymore, so I've graduated. Right? And so working through that, I think that was my big eye-opener experience of like, when you start being able to find this relief because of the modalities that you're using, like, please don't stop. Like, even if it's frustrating, like Michelle says, you just got to sit with it for a minute, and it's like, go through this, like experience it, and sit in that position, realize if it's yours or not, because sometimes maybe it is ours or maybe it isn't. I mean, there's 1,000 people that we interact with in various ways all day, every day. So when we're able to start doing this, like, don't stop. These are what these modalities are there for. And, going over to, I'm going to mention Lisa Coveney, the massage therapist there in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Now, I'm telling you, if you can ever get a massage from her, like, please do. She is phenomenal. Wow, she just can move stuff in your body and you're like, oh, it is awesome. So even if she's listening, hi Lisa, we love you. And if you guys get the opportunity to schedule an appointment with her, since you got this fair coming up, she's in Scottsbluff. So if you can go to her, she is phenomenal. But she's just like, you got to be able to clear this stuff out. And how do you find those people? Because, Lisa, maybe you're different, but when I started getting into this alternative work, I started getting very particular about who I started letting touch me or work on me. Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, Lisa Kulavani of Cradle Your Soul, for any of those listeners that wanted to look her up. I'm very particular about where I go as well to get a massage or to get a healing. And I think we should all be very particular. Ask for referrals, but more than anything, if I don't feel comfortable with someone immediately, if there's any kind of incidents of discomfort or anxiety or nervousness in my tummy, and even a feeling of insecurity I feel with someone, then that's my signal to this isn't my person. I'll give you an example. Once I went to this person here in town who was absolutely shouted to the heavens about what a great massage they gave. And I mean, I heard all kinds of people say, oh, you got to go to her. Oh, you got to go to her. And so I was having a hard time. This was years and years ago. And I went to this person And I mentioned that I was a Reiki practitioner, and she kind of squinched up, like, like not physically, but like something happened, like energetically. And I got down on the table, and you're naked on a massage table, we are covered, but she was working on me, and my whole body started shaking like a leaf. I've never had anything experience like this ever. My entire body. Actually, no, I did have one other experience like that when I was younger and I was sitting with a boy, but that's another thing. Anyway, I was shaking on the table, shaking. And I went through with the whole massage. And I was so mad at myself that I didn't say, you know what, you are such a gifted massage therapist, but I don't feel like this is what I need today. I mean, I should have just gotten up and said, thank you so very much. I'm paying you for the whole thing, and just walked out and not allowed her to continue, because the whole day I was a wreck, energetically, and shaking and anxious, and it was a mess. And I have no idea what that was about, whether it was a past life connection or just that when I said I did, Reiki, she thought I was the devil incarnate practicing who knows what. I mean, that could happen, right? I really don't know, but it's important that you listen to your body and listen to what you're feeling, because your body's going to tell you, this is my healer, this is not my healer, this is a person who can help me, this is a person who is not resonant with me and my needs right now. And then follow through, and don't let this need to be a good girl or a good human, and not rock the boat or make things awkward, get in the way of serving your needs.
Yeah, I agree. Well, okay, Cheri, have you held back when you've met different healers and you've went to go get exchanges, or have an exchange with somebody for energy work or healing work? I mean, have you held back? Is that one of the traits of like starting to learn your own power? I mean, do we hold back when it comes to finding our healers, like Lisa says? Or let me correct that. Not, we don't want to hold back, but not being able to feel strong enough to stand up for ourselves and walk away. There's the extra. So what do you think?
Well, I guess for me, I'm still new to the metaphysical aspect of all of this. I mean, consciously, okay? I've always been there. I can't, man, I don't know how to say this. When I sit down with a worker, I ask them right up front, who do you work with? Do you work with angels? Do you work with God? Do you work with just you? Do you work with ancestors? Witchcraft? I'm like, because I've trusted people for readings, my friends, and later found out they did like all this hoodoo stuff, which just doesn't resonate for me. And I don't like the energy from it personally. Okay. And so it got real dark real fast, and I went right away, and I didn't know enough to say something. I went right over to my friend Meg, and she saw it when I walked in, like it was a black smog following me, and she's like, oh, no, you come with me, and we took care of it and got rid of it. But if you do not know who they are, like what they believe in, as far as like who they work with and where they believe they get their special giftings from, you can really literally walk out of there with their crap following you. Even if you do the empathic stuff of, we're going to, trim these cords off of us and, plug us back into the good stuff, you still have stuff that can and will follow you. And I have dealt with that with people. I see it follow them in the rooms, and we deal with that right then and there, kind of in my prayer world thing. But like Lisa said, yeah, sometimes we just feel like, why didn't I just, and I mean, I did stand up for myself in this reading, and I said, that does not resonate. That does not sound right. I'm looking at the cards and I'm going, that's not divorce. That's not hatred. That's like wedded bliss. And that's like, all this other stuff. So she gave me a backwards reading, and then I got a nice little yucky fog behind me for my trouble. So just, who cares? How long is it? It's like 30 seconds of feeling awkward. and you get the holy heck out of there. Like, that's the worst thing. And then you're going to feel awkward the rest of the day about it and beat yourself up for it. But then the next day you're going to wake up and you're going to go, I'm kind of a spiritual badass, you know? And then the next time you kind of work on those strengths. And I know Lisa's so tenderhearted. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. So, but we go from strength to strength, literally.
Yeah. Well, and Michelle, what are some of the things that you have been able to do to kind of help yourself be able to, one, stand up and be like, okay, nope, that's not for me? Because I think we all have those experiences with people where we're like, all right, I'll just sit here for 40 more minutes and then I'll be done. You know, what are some of those things that, you know, as we are healing ourselves with our modalities, what are some steps that we can take that will help kind of beef up our personal strength?
So I use discernment a lot. And my guides are like, well, is this healer, reader, psychic, matrix psychic? Or are they a galaxy psychic? Because there's two different ways of doing it. So are they stuck in this human loop that's down here and that's all they're reading and seeing? Or can they reach into the 10th, 11th, and 12th chakras and go beyond the galaxy to actually separate themselves from what's going on down here? And so I always, when I learn about somebody, I always do the research first. I connect going, is this right for me before I even step into that arena to have to make that decision to say, this is not working for me. I would rather pass them on and say, you know, I'm still considering it. I'm still doing my research and let it move on from there. And then if it never comes back around again, I also know from the universe that it was never meant to be.
What a polite way. That is a really polite way, honestly. I'm still doing my research. You know? But
right?
No, that is awesome because, I mean, our goal is never to offend or to hurt other people's feelings because, like, we know that practice helps us grow, helps us develop and everything like that. But how do we coexist with, you know, how do we coexist with knowing what we know and doing what we do and going through each day learning to heal what we had yesterday? How do we coexist with other people that are not, or that they're just starting to learn how to, you know, we always call it the term wake up. But Lisa, what are your thoughts on that? How do we coexist knowing what we know with people that are just either stuck in the 3D world or starting to wake up? How do we be able to work with them or work with ourselves during that time?
That is a wonderful question. My answer is just that we have to make sure that our ego is out of the way and really be tuned in and tapped in to spirit, and trust that spirit will give you the nudge and the right opportunity to say what needs to be said that can help that person. And also recognize that people have soul contracts. They've made their choices and they have free will. And so, you know, it helped me a lot when I learned this concept that I can plant a seed. And maybe that seed will germinate and someone will come along and give it some water, and someone else will come along and give it a little sunshine. And it may someday, on a day I'm not even present to watch or see or ever learn about, it may bloom, but it's not for me to be the one responsible for all of those all those aspects. I can plow the ground a little bit, I can plant a seed, I can water someone else's seed and put a little sunshine on an idea, but I'm not responsible for them. And as soon as you realize that you're not responsible for other people, but that God can give you the nudge, so ask for that. Please, Spirit, give me the nudge when it's time for me to speak up or when it's time for me to share. And if I don't feel that nudge, please give me the wisdom to remain silent. And that's how you can be the most effective anyway. Now, when it comes to Facebook, you've got this huge circle of people there, and some are ready to have a seed planted, and some are ready for, just a little cultivation of the ground. Other people are ready to, stomp you down with a bulldozer because you dared express something. And I'm constantly trying to feel into what to share and what not to share, and how to express things I want to share, and how to, what to leave there and not comment on, and how to respond to people. I mean, we all have these Mr. Smith people that the moment you express something that's wrong think in their mind, there's this like, and they're like not your friend anymore. They're this weird energy of shut you down, shut you down, shut you down, shut you down. And so I'm just trying so much to figure out how to operate in the world authentically as me and share what I feel is important without shutting my own voice down because of the fear I may have about Mr. Smith's popping up in my feed. It's hard right now to be in the world and be authentic and not let your voice be squelched by the wrong think police.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That is so true. I think all of us agree with you. I think 3/4 of the world agrees with you on that one because you're like, hi, what's so high about it? So Cheri, what are some of the things that you do to help coexist? I mean, what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis to be able to coexist with the ever-changing energy? I mean, it is ever-changing. So what are some of the things that you do to coexist every day?
Well, first of all, this saying changed my life when I was 28. So 15 years ago, or no, God, 20 some years ago. That's not important, right? I was sitting in a counselor's office, and I was still in that mindset that grace is earned, and I'm sobbing hysterically, like, I was such a good wife, and why did I have boo hoo 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 hoo, how you do. And she just looked at me and she said, sweetheart, I'm going to tell you something that my counselor told me once. And she says, it'll change your mindset. She says, every time you run into him and he's a blankety blank, you just sit there and smile and say to yourself, well, what do you expect from a insert word? And I started doing that, even though I was kind of a churchy person. And it wasn't personal anymore. Like, I'm just like, what do you expect from someone who's going to do this? You wouldn't expect to pick up a scorpion and not get stung, so you just kind of learn to guard yourself, especially if you're just starting out on that journey. You have to do something that kind of eases you into the spiritual realm, not just go blam all at once. At least I did. And so then I was able to kind of start offering that grace to other people, because I'm like, well, what if they're not having a good day or whatever? But I think what I do is a lot of my meditations and a lot before my sessions, I just go into it and ask spirit to remove my ego and to approach everybody with unconditional love and grace, because I've had it, I've experienced it, and we don't know what other people are going through. We are all on different aspects of our spiritual journey. And so when we come up against some bonehead that is, oh, you're from the devil, whatever, you don't want to engage and argue. You just give them grace and unconditional love, like you would hope that somebody would do for you. I think is really important.
I think that is absolutely beautiful. Michelle, what are some things that people can be aware of coming from their awakening, from not having this? What are some of the things that people can expect? What may they experience? What are some of these things that they can be like, oh, maybe I am starting to be more aware. Maybe I am starting to be more awake. What are some of these, what we would call symptoms, for lack of a better word, or experience? What would they be?
Some of those things that I look at or see in people is that more physical elements seem to come up, Because as our spirit evolves and our body's not ready, we have to work on those elements in order for our body and our soul to move up together. Because one doesn't move up without the other.
Right.
And so when I've seen all these people go, is this headache part of the ascension process? Or is this, pain is part of the ascension process? It's like, well, yes and no. Because even though we're dealing with all these physical symptoms, we still have to take care of them in order for our body and our soul to move up together into a different dimension. Because it doesn't go separately. And so our body has to be just as ready. And so a lot of the times where I see where people are ready is that their lives seem to be very chaotic. They're seeming to have a lot of physical ailments come up that is just feeling like they're bringing them down, that we have to sit there and start working through, like, okay, no, this could be a good thing. What's going on here? What's going on here? Have you talked to your doctor? Because, we always want to make sure that for physical ailments that there's a doctor behind that. And that they're communicating with that doctor on what's really going on. And so that way they can get down to the root of the problem versus just masking it.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree with that one. It's kind of interesting. And okay, so I guess just the last couple minutes, just to kind of that we've got here. Just a quick answer. Do you believe that doctors can work in conjunction with energy work? Lisa?
Yes, I do. I think every illness and every dis-ease or dysfunction has a mental, a physical, and a spiritual component. We are whole beings. And so if all of the medical doctors and the spiritual practitioners and the mental practitioners could work together, I think we would have a lot more healing accomplished in the world.
I totally agree too. Cheri, what's your thoughts? Can we all work together?
Yes. The disease and stuff in the body oftentimes is just trauma, and different parts of our bodies hold on to it in different places. And sometimes it is a disease process, but you always need that extra emotional and spiritual component as well.
Michelle, real quick, your view? Can we all work together?
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's actually really needed that we learn how to work together. Because like Lisa was saying that, our health is a whole body, soul thing, that we all need to have all these different elements for us to be one. And we all need to work together to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys just nod your heads if you're in agreement with me. When people are starting to be aware and they're starting to open up to realize that there's more that they can do for themselves, I think just as you shop around for a doctor, I think it's wise to also shop around for your practitioners. Would you agree? Because this way, like Lisa says, and like Michelle says, and like Cheri says, it is encompassing the body, spirit, and soul, every aspect of it, right? It's not just taking care of the thumb when the whole hand is bleeding. It's taking care of all of it. So being aware of who you are letting work with you and who you are going to work with, because it's not a competition when you have your authentic people that are working together for the better of the soul that's in front of them. There is no competition. There is none of that. It is all for the better of everybody. And, maybe this is one thing. Just thoughts real quick. Maybe there are some questions, 2 or 3 questions that a person that's just starting to wake up, maybe these are 2 or 3 questions that they could kind of keep in their mind when they're looking for a practitioner. Lisa, what would be a couple of them?
I would definitely ask them how long they've been practicing, where they have practiced, and who their teachers are. And then I would research their teachers.
Very good. Michelle, what are your thoughts? What are a couple of questions that you would have them keep in mind?
So to keep in mind, I would also ask like how long they've been practicing, like Lisa had said. And then are their gifts taught? And if so, who are their teachers? And if their gifts are natural, how have they seen their gifts evolve over their lifetime?
Interesting. Very good. Cheri, what are a couple of questions from you that they'd be able to keep in mind?
I often just go in with my discernment is usually pretty good. So I just does does their energy feel clean? You know, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel accepted? And do you have faith in that person? I never even thought to ask the other questions. I just go kind of, I wing it intuitively and spiritually, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's what it's all about, right? Well, before we go, we're going to throw another plug out here for the Wyo, Nebraska Metaphysical Fair, because you will have an opportunity to meet a variety of people. So Lisa, again, if you would real quick, what are the dates, times, and the actual physical location of this event?
Absolutely. It's the Wyo Nebraska Metaphysical Fair, March 6th and 7th, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 10 to 5. And it is at the Gearing Civic Center in Gearing, Nebraska. And you can find that information and more about the vendors at prairieartsyoga.com. That's my website. So thanks again, Althea.
Well, thank you for putting that event together. This event's been in Nebraska now for how many years?
Gosh, I think I've run it for 4 now, and it's probably 6. Amy Eisenman ran it for I think a couple of years before she passed it on to me.
Well, and what a wonderful event. So, everybody that's in hearing distance, if you can drive to Gearing, Nebraska, then make sure you can go. It's a fun event. And there, of course, you're going to be able to meet Lisa, Michelle, and Cheri all in person and get their autographs. No. Get over there and be like, just because, it's kind of fun to be able to see how far this reach is. So for our viewing audience, make sure you get a picture with one of the 3 ladies here, because it's fun and we want to have some fun, and just enjoy that good flow and energy that's going to be happening. So again, tonight, Michelle and the ladies will be back this evening at what time, Michelle?
6:30.
6:30. Oh, it's going to be a good little topic tonight, and you guys are going to have so much fun. Thank you again, Michelle, for putting this together and allowing us to participate with you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And it's always so fun to be able to see everybody, even though we are miles apart. Well, right. With that, ladies, you guys have a great day. And I hope that everybody.
Bye-bye.
So we'll see you next time. Bye.